All right, we are on the review sheet for 11.5, 11.6's quiz. So the front here, that's 11.6. We're focusing on kind of the shortcuts to get to these answers. But remember, you can still always do them the long way as well. But I'm going to focus on the shortcuts, and we'll rehearse the long way on the back for 11.5, which you could also use here. But let's focus on the shortcuts for 11.6. So whenever I have these binomials, and they look the same except you have the plus and the minus, I know that middle term, which in this case would be something n, is going to not be there. And our final answer will be just a binomial with a squared from the n times n. And because I see a negative there, it'll be negative n squared. And from the number times the number, which would be 1. And if you wrote it the other way around, it'd be fine. 1 times 1 is 1. N times negative n is negative n squared. Now, the reason there's no middle term is because we would have a 1 times a negative n and a 1 times a positive n, and they would end up canceling. So focused on that. Now, when we square something, we will have a trinomial, but we can jump straight to the final answer, especially when there's no coefficient here. It's super easy. You just double this number for the middle term, and then you square it for the final term. When there is a number in front, we multiply them first before we double it, which we technically do here, but it's times 1. So you can kind of skip that step. So the first term is always the k times k, so k squared. Doubling this, that's negative 4k. Squaring it times by itself, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. So you could have done the long way. You would have got negative 2k, that adds up to negative 4k. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Okay, number 3, squaring it. So you're going to have an x squared, because again, this is times itself. So the first term always comes from these two multiplied. Okay, then you would have a 6xy and another 6xy. So you can always multiply these together and double it. So that's going to be a 12xy. And then the last one comes from these two being multiplied, so that's a 36y squared. All right, let's jump straight to this one without even rewriting it. Imagine another 5n plus 4 next to this. The first term of our trinomial here is going to come from 5n times 5n, so that's 25n squared. Our next term comes from these two multiplied together and then doubled. So 5 times 4 is 20, doubled is 40n. And the final term always comes from this times itself, so that would be 16. So again, we're practicing that, but let's reinforce why this works. First term comes from this times this. Last term comes from this times this. The middle term comes from those two middle multiplications getting added together. But since we're squaring this, we already know it's going to be the same number twice. We're going to get 20n from this. We're going to get 20n from this, and they add up to 40n. All right, when we square with a negative, it's the same thing. This term just becomes a minus. So this first one's going to be squared. So that's times itself. If you need to rewrite it just to see it, rewrite it. So anything squared means times itself. It'll be a b squared times a b squared. So this is 9b to the 4th. To get the middle term, it's this times this and doubled. So negative 6 doubled, negative 12b squared. So you got to remember that that's going to stay with it, because we would have had a negative 6b squared and a negative 6b squared. And then the final term comes from the negative 2 times negative 2, so positive 4. All right, these, going back now to the first one, when you have anything times itself, but one's a negative, one's a positive, the middle term will cancel itself out, because instead of a negative 6 and a negative 6, you'll get one of each. So first of all, it's going to be 4a squared up front, and then in the end, you just have to do this. So multiplying the first and the last, and you get negative 1, and you're done. Again, the reason that is because, of course, you multiply these two. Here it is. Then you'd multiply this, you'd have a 2a. Then you'd multiply this, you'd have a negative 2a, and they would cancel. And then you have this right here. So same idea here. Multiply the first ones, 4x squared. The middle ones will cancel. Multiply the last ones, minus 25. All right, when something's squared, there will be a middle term. The first term is this squared, so x squared. The middle term is this times this doubled. So 7xy doubled. That's 14xy. And the last term is this squared. So 49y squared. Number 9. This squared is 16y squared. This times this is 12. X squared y. Double it. That's 24x squared y. And then this squared is at the last part. So it's 9x to the 4th. I can't stress enough, if you can't get to that jump right there, rewrite it as itself times itself and go through the process. This times this times this is 12x squared y. This times this is another 12x squared y, and they get added together to make the 24, and then these make the 9x to the 4th. So if you get confused, write it out. All right, these look exactly the same, except one's a plus and one's a minus. So that means the middle ones will eliminate. So all I need is this and this. So it's 9x to the 4th minus, because it's a positive and a negative, 9y to the 4th. Done. So we can get really fast with those. Now, on the back, 11.5. Notice these, they're not the same, right? So there's no tricks here. Well, you got to go through and multiply the first, the outside, the inside, and the last. So let's run through this. We're going to have 24x squared plus 3x. Multiply here, negative 40x. That was this. And then multiply here, not negative 6, negative 5. And so these are my x's. These are going to stay the same. That's negative 37x minus 5. 12r squared. 30r. 8r. 20. These go together. Everything else comes down. Over here, negative 20u squared, negative 28uv, positive 40uv, 56v squared. These will go together. That's 12. uv, it's positive. Everything else comes down. Multiplying, positive 21x squared, positive 18xy, positive 28xy. Those will go together. And positive 24y squared. So we have 21x squared. Put those together. That's 46xy. Bring down the y squared. Again, none of these are like terms. X squared is different than y squared, which is different than xy. But xy can go with xy. 15. Now we got a trinomial here, so we got to do this 3 times for each. Starting here. 20m. Now it's m times m squared, so it's m to the 3rd. This is m times m, so 35m squared. This is 15m. So I've done 3 so far, all for the 5m. Now I got to do 3 for the 2. So 8m squared, 14m, and 6. A squared can go with a squared, and an m can go with an m. M to the 3rd doesn't combine, plus 6 doesn't combine. So I'm going to bring that down. Put my m squareds together for 43m squared. 15 and 14m is 29m, plus 6 comes down. All right, another trinomial here. That is 7m to the 3rd. That is 7m squared and negative 7m. This is 4m squared. This is 4m and negative 4. So 7m to the 3rd comes down, squared and squared. That's 11m squared. Negative 7 positive 4. That's negative 3m. Bring down the minus 4. Same idea here. Now we've just got lots of different variables, so we got to be careful. Negative 16. X times x you can combine, so it's x to the third. Okay, multiplying here, that's going to be a positive 24. X times x is x squared, and this y stays with it. And the last one, negative and a negative is positive 64. It's an x and a y squared, so they just combine to make xy squared. No like terms yet. Now here, it's negative 16 x squared y, so that'll go together with the 20 because it's an x squared y. Negative times negative is positive 24. A y and a y is a y squared, so this is xy squared. That'll go together with the other xy squared. And then this is positive 64. A y times a y squared is a y to the third. All right, so x squared y goes with x squared y. That'll be 8. This is going to come down. And then I have a 64 and a 24. That's 88 xy squared. And 64y to the third comes down. One more time with the binomial times the trinomial. So 12 u to the third, negative 24 u squared v, positive 16, can't combine those, so it's just uv squared. Right here is negative 6 u squared v. Gonna go with this one. Right here, that's a positive. The v is going to get squared. Positive 12 uv squared. So that's going to go with this one. And then at the end, negative 8 v to the third. So we've got 12u to the third. This and this is negative 30 u squared v. This and this is 28 uv squared. And then minus 8v to the third at the end. Okay, 2 more now. Now these are the longest ones, trinomials. So it's going to be 3 for each one of these terms. We're going to have 9 across here. So you can see I barely fit 6, so I'm going to probably need some more room here. So 21 v to the fourth. That's negative 35 v to the third. And that's negative 49 v squared. How about the 4? Positive 12 v to the third. Negative 20 v squared. Negative 28 v. I think we're going to be able to squeeze this in. Positive 21 v squared. Negative 35 v and negative 49. All right, that's the only v to the fourth power, so that comes down. Here's a v to the third. Here's a v to the third. Those are the only two, so put those together. That's negative 23 v to the third. Negative 49 v squared. Negative 20 v squared. And 21 v squared. So we've got 3 of those. Put all those together in your calculator, that's negative 48 v squared. Then I still have a v and a v. 20, they're negative, so they'll combine. 20 and 30 is 50, plus 8 is 58, plus 5 is 63. So negative 63 v, and then you still have minus 49 on the end. Okay, one more to knock out. That's going to be a positive 5. X squared and x squared is x to the fourth. That's going to be a positive 35. X squared times x is x to the third, and the y stays. And then out here, that's positive 10. X squared, y squared just combine. Now to the 4. That's going to be negative 4. X squared and x is x to the third with the y. So we got two of those already. Okay, 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. X times x is x squared. Y times y is y squared. And then at the end, positive and a negative is a negative 8. The x just stays. Y times y squared is y to the third. It's the first one of those we have. And then the last part, negative and a negative is a positive 1. X squared, y squared. Can't do anything there. Negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7. X just stays, and then it's y to the third. So that'll combine with this one. And then the very last one, two negatives make a positive. It's 1 times 2 is 2. Y times y, add them. Y to the fourth power. All right, so a lot of just trying to keep all that straight. So 5x to the fourth just comes down. That's the only one. Okay, now we got to look. Where are all these x to the thirds and y? So it looks like I've got it right here, x to the third y, and right here. And that's it. So those will combine to make a positive 31 x to the third y. So that's gone, that's gone, that's gone. All right, how about these x squared, y squareds? Looks like I got 3 of them. So 10 minus 28, that's negative 18. But I got one more, plus 1. So negative 18 plus 1 is negative 17. X squared, y squared. Gone, gone, gone. I have 2 of these. Xy to the thirds. That's a negative 8 and a positive 7. So negative 1. Xy to the third. And then plus 2y to the fourth tags along.